Welcome to the Exercise is Health podcast, where we're talking about exercise, health, and the interconnectedness of the two. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we will be coming to you every single week from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg.
Hey, welcome back everybody to the Exercise is Health podcast. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we are coming to you from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg in Schaumburg, Illinois. Now, at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, we believe your health is your most valuable asset. Your health is one of the biggest influencers of the quality and quantity of time that you have. And while there are many aspects of health, our expertise is exercise. Exercise has been proven time and again to not only improve your health, but also increase your longevity and improve your quality of life. And today we are answering your questions about exercise and actually about one of our specialties here at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, which is muscle activation techniques. Now, this question is a question that we get often from prospective clients and from new clients. And it's about the symptoms that they're experiencing and why we might go about addressing their body in the manner that we do with MAT.
So what we normally hear is people come up to us because they know we do MAT and they probably have heard that MAT helped their friend, or maybe they read online that helped someone with their symptom, and they'll say something like this: I've got this toe thing going on. What can you do about that? Or I've got this hip pain going on. What do you think you can do about that for me? And it brings the question of what is MAT doing at all? And the reason we have to discuss this is because most of the time, techniques or modalities or interventions that we do for symptoms anywhere in the body, whether it's muscle tightness or a joint thing or whatever you have going on, it's generally in the mission of reducing your feelings, your sensations, your symptoms of whatever you're feeling. So for example, if you're feeling a lot of tight muscles, the goal of a lot of therapies that you might go to for this tight muscle is reduction of the tight muscles. Or let's say you have a knee pain and it bothers you when you run. So you might seek out an intervention or a modality to help you with this. And usually that modality will have one goal of reducing knee pain. And that makes sense, right? Because it's like, hey, I've got a symptom here. I should go find something that helps me reduce this symptom. But the problem arises when those things don't work for you. And that's when normally people find out about MAT, or muscle activation techniques. So it's important that we discuss this topic today because we don't view the body in that way. So when clients come in saying, hey, I've got knee pain, what can you do for me? Usually our first answer is, I'm not sure at this moment, but let's do an assessment, we can find out. Or when, I'm home for Thanksgiving and a family member comes up to me and says, I've got this tightness in my neck. What would you do about that? And my answer always is, well, I don't really know right now, because it's not just, it hurts here, so let's address here. We take a much larger approach, and that's what we'll be diving into.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the unique things about muscle activation techniques is we step outside the paradigm of there's a local symptom, which means there's a local problem, and therefore we need to address that problem locally. We step outside of that and take more of a global viewpoint and say, hey, if your knee is bugging you, if your knee is where the symptom is, okay, yes, we do need to take into consideration what's happening at the knee and the function at the knee, but also what's happening at the feet, what's happening at the hip, what's happening in the trunk, okay, what's happening at these areas of your body that are above and below where your symptoms are. And that approach is something that is, again, relatively unique to MAT, and it can throw a lot of clients off because so often the story that we're fed is, well, if you have knee pain, that means you have a knee problem. And only every once in a while do we ever have somebody come in saying, yeah, my knee's bugging me, but I think it's coming from my hip. Or my knee's bugging me, but I think it's coming from my foot. Rarely is that ever the case. In fact, more times than not, people are surprised when we tell them, hey, you know what? I know your knee's bugging you, but the function of it actually looks really good. In fact, we need to be spending more time looking at your hips and looking at your feet and looking at your trunk, because I think those areas are more dysfunctional and therefore causing more stress at your knee.
That's right. And so when people get on our muscle activation techniques table, MAT table, often, we say this like, we're going to look for where your muscles aren't working properly. And we'll dive more into this because we're going to talk about exactly what MAT is. But, they're coming in, again, we'll just stick with the example, knee pain. And we do the assessment, find out their hip is highly dysfunctional, and then we start working on their hip. And it always is. I know I came in here for knee pain, and I know you said I have a hip issue, and I know you're working on my hip now, but is this really going to help my knee? And that is always a question. And almost every single time, usually after the first couple sessions, a client will get up the table and say, that is really weird. You didn't even touch my knee, and you only worked on my hip, and now I'm questioning, did I really have a knee problem? Well, and clearly you had a knee symptom because your body is signaling that something's not going well in the knee, or the knee is tolerating more and more stress than maybe it should. Almost every single time when we're looking at the body, instead of looking at the symptomatic area, if we can find the area where the muscles are not doing a good job at doing their job, they're not supporting, they're not contracting appropriately, they're not able to absorb the appropriate forces that they're supposed to be absorbing, then other joints or other areas of the body often take the brunt of that. And that's why a lot of times when you're coming in with a symptom, whether it's your foot or your knee or your shoulder, or your trunk, your back, whatever it is, we take a total body approach and say, okay, hey, where are the muscles not doing their job? We're not asking the question, where are you hurting? Because that gives us very little information. It does give us a piece of information that says something's not going well, something's not operating well. It just doesn't tell us what's not operating well. It doesn't really lead us to make decisions and to find areas of your body where there is opportunity for improvement.
Exactly. So let's zoom out for a quick second and again discuss what the goal of MAT is. Okay, so if the goal of MAT is not necessarily symptom reduction at its core, okay, what is the goal of MAT? And if you've been listening to our podcast in the past, you've probably picked this up already. But for those of you that are new, and for all of us, because we definitely need a refresher from time to time, we need to keep in mind that the goal of MAT is to assess the body to figure out where muscles cannot contract well and improve the ability of those muscles to contract, okay? Improve the ability of the muscles to generate tension, for the muscles to squeeze and to be able to do so on a moment's notice, okay? And this is really important because it's really important for injury protection reasons. It's really important for joint health and joint management reasons. It's really important for like feelings of stability reasons. And it's really important for your ability to keep doing the things that you want to do for as long as you want to do them, okay? Why is this? Because your muscles are the things within your body. They're going to allow you to keep doing the activities that you want to do. So long as your muscles keep working well, you at least have the opportunity to do the things that you want to do. But as soon as your muscles start becoming dysfunctional, your opportunity to do all the activities that bring you joy, that you really have fun with, that bring meaning to your life, all of a sudden that opportunity starts to diminish as your muscular function starts to diminish. So in order to make sure that you can keep doing the things you want to do, making sure that your muscles are functioning well is really, really important. And that is the goal of MAT.
Yeah, and a lot of people will come in and say, oh, yeah, you guys always say MAT helps the muscles work better and make sure that all the muscles are contracting appropriately. But I work out all the time, so my muscles are really strong. I know it. And this brings up a good point, because we know that if you exercise, your muscles will be healthier and will be more operational and at a higher quality than if you don't exercise. But what MAT does is make sure that your body is able to contract and use its muscle tissue in the fullest, largest ranges, and able to control your joints in all the little different intricate ways that joints can move. If you think about exercise, because of the amount of weight that you're doing, whether it's body weight, which is still a significant amount of weight, or you're lifting weights, which is more weight, or doing cardio activities, which again is technically would be a body weight exercise. You're lifting and using a significant amount of weight. And because of this, our body's natural instinct is to compensate. And so when you're lifting, moving, doing cardio, going for a walk, using your body weight, which we have to do because our bodies have weight to them, our bodies will naturally compensate and hide many of the weaknesses or imbalances or insufficiencies that may be in existence there. And what our bodies will normally do is just show us that something is going wrong by having a symptom. And that symptom is a signal for you to not do the thing. For example, again, we were using the knee example. If your knee bothers you when you run, it's probably a good signal to maybe not run right now. But other areas of your body may be compensating around certain weak muscles. And what MAT will look for is making sure that every muscle is able to do their best job.
Something to remember is that your body is trying to be as efficient as it can, okay? And so with that, if you have muscles that aren't working as well for whatever reason, your body, like Julie's saying, is going to do a really good job at compensating around those muscles. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing that you're able to compensate around those muscles. But eventually, compensating around those muscles that aren't working as well may start to become more and more and more stressful for the muscles that are having to do all the compensation. And that's when we start to see symptoms show up. And that's when we start to see things like, oh, your knee's bugging you, but it's actually the muscles in your hip that aren't working well. Or it's actually the muscles in your foot that aren't working well, and that's why your knee is having to pick up more stress, okay? If you listen to our episode 2 weeks back where we were talking about the magic muscle myth, and Julie brought up the analogy of the office, and there are 10 workers in an office, and they're all assigned a project to have done by the end of the week. And they divvy up the workload accordingly between the 10, and then the next day, half the workers don't show up. Well, guess what's going to happen? The 5 that are still there, they're going to have to work double. And while that may be sustainable for a day or two, at the end of the week, they're probably going to be pretty stressed out, okay? They are that metaphorical symptom that's showing up. They are what you're feeling in your knee, or what you're feeling throughout your body when there's a symptom going on. That's an area of your body that you're like, wow, this area is really stressed out. And it may be stressed out because it's having to do too much for other areas that aren't doing enough, okay? So again, to kind of bring it back to the analogy that we gave you a couple weeks back, in order to reduce the stress of the 5 workers that are doing their job and actually working really well, what we need to do is we need to get the other 5 workers that called in sick or that are playing hooky, we need to get them back on the job so then the workload can be more evenly distributed, okay? And that's what we're looking to do with MAT, and that's why we have to ask the question of, all right, we know your symptom is there, but why is it there? What areas of the body could be contributing to you experiencing a symptom in that area? And so we need to start with assessing your body to figure out what might be contributing to that.
Absolutely. And as we're talking about this, probably half of you guys, because I know I felt this way, are thinking, I really don't care that much how perfect my muscles are working. I really care if I can, I like to run, and I can still run, just a little knee nagging me, or I like to play with my grandkids, and I pretty much can. Getting off the floor and getting, back up is a little hard, but I pretty much can do what I want. And I get this because it's interesting to think, okay, I'm going to spend time, working with this MAT specialist to get all my muscles firing up, all perfectly. But what is that really going to mean for me? What is that really going to do for my body? And in the beginning, I said, I can totally relate to this because I also thought that. Like when I first heard about MAT, I thought, oh, cool. Sounds like it's for like muscle heads and gym people. And, I don't need that. I just need to stretch my hamstrings a little bit more. Like I don't need to get all my muscles tuned up and stuff until I experienced it. And I realized how much better my body operated and how much more I could do with my body. And I'm not an athlete or anything, but just being able to go out and do something, or I can roll my ankle without it being sprained and limping for a week after, or I can push my body, intentionally or accidentally more in a workout without having to pay for it for 2 days. And so just those experiences have opened my eyes to, well, maybe I really do need and should have my muscles maintained consistently, because trust me, I was in your shoes. If you've never experienced MAT, this whole talking about getting muscles working well and, maintaining them even when you're not symptomatic is kind of, to me, it was kind of a turnoff / maybe not a turnoff, but just like, okay, well, why would I need that? So I think it's important now that we kind of dive into that. What does MAT do in terms of allowing us to do the things we want to do? Because let's be honest, no one really cares about all of our muscles working well, but we do care about being able to do the stuff we want to do and being able to engage in the activities we enjoy or strive to do one day. So I think that should be our next place of chatting.
Absolutely. And so on that note, hey, all the activities that you enjoy doing most, they all require some output. They all require some effort from your muscular system, all right? And as we've been talking about, if you have any kind of inefficiencies within the muscular system, meaning muscles not working as well as they should be, that means your body's going to have to compensate around those. Now, short term, it may not be a big deal, but over the long term, okay, whether the long term means a few months, a few years, or a few decades, well, all of a sudden, your body's going to start developing these symptoms because the areas that were working really well to start, now they're getting to the point where they're just feeling stressed out. They're just feeling overworked. They're just feeling uptight, okay? And so, yes, you might not be thinking, okay, I want to have every single muscle within my body working as well as it possibly can at all times of day. And that's fair. There's no issue with that at all. But if you are thinking to yourself, you know what, I would really like to be able to golf for my entire retirement. Or I would really like to be able to travel with my spouse after I retire. I'd really like to be able to stay living on my own and not have to go into an assisted living space, as I grow older, which means I'm going to have to be able to do the chores around my house. I'm going to have to be able to shovel my driveway when it snows or mow my yard or, walk up and down my stairs, do my laundry. If any of those thoughts ever cross your mind, what you are saying is, I'm really going to need my muscles to keep working well as I get older. And that's the reality of it, because every single thing that you want to do, whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, next year, whenever, is going to require the use of your muscular system in some form or fashion, even if you're thinking, I just want to be able to sit there and watch TV. Because the number of people that come in and say, yeah, I can sit for about 30 minutes and then my back starts to bug me. Guess what? Sitting is not just sitting, okay? It requires effort from your muscular system. And if you find that you can only sit for a relatively short period of time or not as long as you'd like to be able to, that means that your muscular system's not working as well as you want it to work in order to do the things you want to do.
Yeah, and this idea can really be applied to some examples that Charlie just gave, like traveling, doing activities into retirement, being independent with your lifestyle as you get older. And it can also really be applied to maybe you're not at that stage of life, but it can be applied to wherever you are in life. I know we have clients in here, high school athletes. We have people that just like exercising and they're young. They're not even 20 yet. And we also have professional and aspiring to be professional athletes. They want to take their muscles to the next level, meaning they want to be able to exert their bodies to the maximum level. We get people with chronic joint issues, and they know they have, maybe it's arthritis in all their joints, and they just have to make sure their muscles stay in tip-top shape so that they're able to maximize their mobility and activities. And then we have people that are asymptomatic. They just want to exercise and be healthy. And I don't know about you, but I've never talked to anyone over the age of 35 that doesn't have a symptom that comes up when they exercise. Because what happens is we have these dysfunctions that develop in our body, whether it's something you did as a child or the way you live your life every day. Maybe you're seated, you don't normally use your muscles on a daily or weekly basis, and these things build up and kind of manifest in our bodies. So they just haven't been taken care of, so they're just waiting there. And in addition to that, many people start exercising, especially when they start feeling their health naturally declining, usually mid-30s, 40s, somewhere in there. And these things that they had as a kid or an injury they sustained as a high school athlete kind of show up again when they start exercising. So this idea of making sure and maintaining the ability for muscles to do their job can really span to anyone in their lifestyle. It just depends on what is important to you at this time. So whether it's you're in high school, or we've even seen middle schoolers and their parents are sick of watching them on the sidelines because they keep getting injured. That is a requirement of the muscle system to be able to allow the joints to be mobile, to be stable, and to be able to absorb forces. So that's a great reason to tune up the muscle system. Maybe you are just trying to be healthy. You went to the doctor and now they're telling you it's time to exercise, and you're like, what? I have never been to the gym. And so as you start moving, you notice you have aches and pains come along with it. Newsflash, aches and pains are very common. They are not normal. Although the gym industry would like to tell you they are normal. They are not normal, but they are common. So someone in those shoes would greatly benefit from muscle activation techniques, because now this person can get healthier because they're exercising, but not have to have all the discomforts that we want to post on Instagram about. I'm so sore, I can't move, that kind of junk. And it can also be applied to, like I said, high-end athletes, people that are paid or maybe unpaid, maybe they're striving to, but on a daily, weekly basis, they are pushing their bodies to the max. So they really need to make sure their muscle system is really able to operate highly and recover quickly. And MAT does a great job at making sure every muscle is firing properly, every joint is being supported as well as it can, and this helps these kind of people perform really highly. And then of course the example that Charlie gave with retirement and as you age, we don't often think about lifestyle things like reaching up to getting your medicine cabinet or sitting down onto the toilet or going up and down the stairs as a performance problem. But those things are performance problems, meaning your body is unable to do the activities that you'd like it to do, although it's not a sport, which normally we label, performance with sport. So muscles are the thing that allow your body to move. And so MAT is a really crucial element in making sure that you're able to continue to do those motions. Whether you're aging and you like to be highly active, or whether you're aging and you just want to do the things to enjoy your life and be independent and do the stairs and be able to reach up for high things and be able to get on your tiptoes and have the balance there. So every stage of life can benefit from muscle activation techniques. The only thing is it just depends on what thing is important to you at that stage.
So how do we know whether or not something's more of a local symptom, so it's a local issue, or more of a local symptom, which means it's more of a global contributions to this issue, okay? And, the bottom line answer is, well, just talking here, we don't. But what we do see is almost all local symptoms have some kind of global contribution in one way or another, okay? So if you're feeling something in your knee, there's likely something going on elsewhere in your body that is at least in part contributing to what you're experiencing in your knee. All right. An analogy that we use from time to time is the idea that pain or symptoms are like a check engine light. Okay. When the check engine light comes on in your car, what do? Do you put some tape over it so you can't see it anymore? Because when you can't see the pain, that means, when you can't see the check engine light, that means it's not there, right? Or better yet, do you take a hammer and do you smash that light out? Because then it definitely can't be shining, and so it can't be on, which means there's no issue. Now, what do? You take your car in to the mechanic to go get it assessed, to figure out what's going on. And so often, while we take that approach with our car, we don't take that approach with our body, which means that when we have a symptom come up in our body, we think about what can we do to get rid of the symptom instead of, well, maybe I should go get my body assessed to see what's contributing to this symptom. All right. And so that's really step number one, is when symptoms start coming up, you have to get yourself assessed. And better yet, best case scenario, you would go get yourself assessed before any symptoms start coming up to try to address the issues that are there before they become symptomatic, okay? One of the biggest things that MAT can do for you is uncover issues that are asymptomatic and address those before they become symptomatic, all right, to keep everything at bay. So first and foremost, go get yourself assessed. Again, if you go to muscleactivation.com, click on the Find a Specialist tab, you'll find a list of all the certified practitioners within your area who will be able to assess your body and give you information on what things may be asymptomatic right now, but may become symptomatic in the future because of these imbalances and compensations that they see going on, all right? And then you also have to realize that while there may be local issues, like yes, there's a knee symptom and there's actually an issue of what's going on at the knee, you still need to check to make sure that there's nothing going on elsewhere in the body that wasn't, at least in first, contributing to what's going on at the knee, okay? So, for example, if you have a torn ACL, all right, you tore your ACL, that's a very kind of structural issue that happened at the knee where you ruptured a ligament, all right? The question becomes, okay, what allowed you to tear your ACL in the first place? All right. And a lot of times what we see is when the knee has to pick up more stress like that, there was instabilities at the foot, there were instabilities at the hip, in addition to the instabilities at the knee that made the knee more vulnerable to injury. So even though, yes, the symptom and the injury and the issue occurred at the knee, and there are certainly like distinct structural issues that are going on at the knee, what else contributed to those issues being able to happen in the first place? And likely, and more times than not, what we see is that it is instabilities or inefficiencies in the muscular system at areas above or below where that local symptom is.
Yeah, and some other examples of this would be people with arthritis or ligamentous issues, because I think it really all kind of boils down to how you view your body. Like, is it something that is, something to be maintained and that you can work to change your own symptoms? Or is it something that, maybe you just go to a surgeon for? And neither is wrong. But you're probably kind of hearing just from our conversation here that Charlie and I are very kind of proactive type people. Like, hey, let's go get things checked up with the muscles before we do something more extreme. And I've heard so many stories from colleagues and clients of mine of things they were considering doing that after getting muscle activation techniques, which is a very non-invasive technique, it's just, hey, let's get the muscles working better, then they can't believe they ever considered that. For example, I had a woman that was my client, and she goes, yeah, my husband got MAT from another practitioner, and he was going to get foot surgery. But then after a couple sessions of MAT, there wasn't any foot issue anymore. So he canceled the surgery. And I thought, that is awesome. And so just things that we think are so permanent, like I can't move my knee because of the arthritis. And then all of a sudden we get muscles working better and the knee moves better. Of course, MAT is not going to take away arthritis. It's not going to reattach torn ligaments or tendons. But what it can do is really alleviate a ton of stress and allow the muscles to really do a good job at supporting the joints, the other tissues, the other muscles. And it's really amazing. And I'm amazed every day at how much this changes, how we view our body and how our body's able to move and function, even with potentially permanent structural issues that Charlie was sharing, like, for example, arthritis or a torn ACL or things like that. This can also be applied, of course, we keep going back to the knee just for consistency, but this can also be applied, of course, to every joint of the body, including shoulders and elbows and the neck and the spine or your back, your SI joints, your hips, your knees, your ankles. Even for me, I think a lot of you guys know that I had ankle surgery, and because I broke off part of my tibia, which is the bigger bone of your shin, and or I guess it is your shin bone, but it's not the small one off to the side. There's two bones down there. I broke that, so I had to get it reattached. But it's just been amazing at how much the muscles and getting treated with MAT has restored function down in that area, even though I have a permanent change in that area, and it will never be back to the original, structure. But just getting the muscles working there better has dissipated so much excess force and issues up into my spine that I had from that. So that's just a little quick example of that.
So to recap, okay, the ideas that we're talking about here are that if you have some kind of symptom, all right, and you get yourself checked out by an MAT practitioner, it's very likely that where that symptom is not where they're going to be working. And the reason is because we always have to ask, okay, what else is contributing to what you're experiencing in the symptomatic area? Is the symptomatic area symptomatic because it's having to pick up too much stress for other areas that aren't working well? Now, for some people, these what we're calling these global contributions, or the ability or the contribution of other areas of the body with to create the stress of what we're feeling locally. These global contributions for some people are going to be a really big piece of the puzzle. For other people, they're going to be a smaller piece, but it's a piece that has to be checked out, because too often we get caught in the mindset of a local symptom means there's a local problem, which means we need to address things locally. And with MAT, we need to step outside of that paradigm and start asking the question, what could be contributing to this? And could it be areas above and below the symptomatic area that are contributing to this? Okay. Again, remember, the goal of MAT is not to address the symptom, but to figure out where your muscles are not working as well as they should be, get those muscles working better. And what we see is when your muscles are working better, your joints take on less stress, your soft tissue, your passive soft tissues start to take on less stress, and overall, your joints are better supported and can move better. So if you have questions about this, feel free to shoot us a message, info@matschaumburg.com, okay? You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook, or go to muscleactivation.com. Click on the Find a Specialist tab and find a practitioner in your area to sign up with, to get your body assessed and figure out where you might be having these contributions throughout your body that you're experiencing as a local symptom in one area of your body, okay? Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. If you wouldn't mind, head on over to iTunes, leave us a rating and review so we can get some feedback from you of what your thoughts are on this content. And then who do you know that needs to hear this episode? Who do you know that's been complaining about aches and pains or tight muscles or something for years? And they've tried what they think is everything under the sun, and they still haven't experienced the relief that they're looking for. MAT may be that thing, because remember, MAT is going to step outside the paradigm of looking just locally at the symptom. So share this episode with them. Help them learn that there may be an alternative way to view what they are experiencing as local symptoms. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.